Hi, I'm Dustin Abbott, and I'm here to give you a different kind of review here today. I've been interested in head-mounted displays for a while, but Goovis was not a brand that I had heard of. But when they reached out to me, I did a bit of research and discovered that they are a company with a well-developed reputation in Asia for their work in high-definition head-mounted displays, or HMD. So I thought, sure, I'll give it a try, and I'm starting off here using this as my teleprompter for the moment. Goovis actually holds more than 150 global patents, and you can tell in the product that I'm reviewing today, which is called the Goovis Art, it shows every indication of being a mature, polished product. Now, what this is not is a VR or virtual reality device. It is a head-mounted display that allows you to watch what looks like a very big screen. Basically, it looks like a 110-inch screen at a 4-meter or about 13-foot distance, but obviously in a very compact and lightweight device. Most importantly, it just works. It's effortless. It is very effective. I've allowed a bunch of people to strap on the Goovis Art and tell me what they think, and the response, all the way up to my 85-year-old father-in-law, has been a lot of wow. So is this device something that you should be interested in? Well, we're going to dive in, and after I've used it now for close to a month, I'll let you know what I think works really well, what needs a bit of polish, and whether or not this should be something that you should check out. Let's dive in. Let's take a look. So before we jump in full disclosure, Goovis did send me the Art for testing. As always, this is a completely independent review. They have had no input on my findings, and they will not be seeing this video before you see it. So let's talk about some of the design elements here and the specifications that go into what they call the Art. This is a very simple design that leverages USB-C's ability to transmit a video signal. And particularly when you're using an output device like a lot of Android phones, and then also the more recent iOS devices, starting with iPhone 15, they also have the ability to transmit a video signal via USB-C. And so if you have a device that outputs via USB-C, it's a really simple process. It is the very definition of plug and play. Once you plug one end into the Art and the other into your playback device, for example, my iPhone 15, immediately the device will power up and it will start to show a screen mirroring of what's going on in your phone. Then when you go to actual video content and you start to play back, it treats this as if you were casting to a TV, for example. And so it's not going to have all the on-screen information there all the time. And so that doesn't interfere with your playback ability. Now, to be clear, the Art does not have any kind of built-in power source of its own. So it is going to be running off of power coming from your playback device. Now, I couldn't find an actual specification on what the power usage actually is. I didn't notice anything significant, but there is no question that your battery is going to drain faster. And of course, if you're on a long flight, for example, and you're tying up your charge port with this cable for video, you might want to have a QI, like wireless charger, and so that you can keep everything topped up during the course of your flight or your commute, whatever the case may be. Now, there is a USB-C to HDMI adapter that is available for devices that have an HDMI output, but don't have a USB-C for video type output. If you have an older phone, you may be stuck using something else. And so they do have a package which what they call the D4H1. This is not only a streaming device that is basically running Google TV iOS, or operating system, not iOS, but operating system, but it also has an 8000 mAh power bank built into it. So that way you have about 6 hours of playback via this. And so that means on a flight, for example, by using a package like this, you could watch about 3 2-hour movies before the power of this ran out. And in this case, you actually do have the ability to charge at the same time, because the unfortunate thing here is you're actually having to leverage an HDMI output. So you've got to use this adapter and then plug your USB-C cable into the back of this. So that's unfortunate. It does add an extra piece in here and a little bit of clunk to that. The upside is that you can also use this device for outputting to any kind of HDMI. So if you have a non-smart TV, for example, a projector, anything like that, you could output and have a Google iOS, including a nice standard Google TV remote, which can be very useful because it's familiar button layout. And I actually found, even in playback, I did enjoy having the remote just for quick, play, pause, that type thing. I found that to be extremely useful. So that's how you get content to the actual device. So let's talk a little bit more about the device itself. First of all, I really appreciated the fact that you have a wide range of adjustments, and so that you can make sure that you get the optimal not only situation of the device, but also the optimal sharpness or clarity of the device for your use. So first of all, you have the ability to adjust left-right, and so everyone has, a little bit different pupil distance and distance between their eyes, and so you have a range all the way from 58 millimeters up to 74 millimeters, which is quite a significant range of adjustment to make sure that you can get both of those screens lined up perfectly in front of your pupils, and so that you're getting the maximum viewing area and they're lining up the most properly. You also have a diopter control on either side, and so you can independently adjust the diopter for both screens and thus for both eyes. And so the range is from 0 to minus 3.5. Now, if your vision if you're more myopic than that and you require a greater adjustment of vision, you can wear this. The design allows you to continue to wear your glasses while doing this. And so in that case, obviously you're going to back off any kind of diopter adjustment because your glasses are going to be doing the heavy lifting of correcting your vision. It is 3D capable, and there is a button that allows you to switch between 2D and 3D. It is a side-by-side 3D content. I did a little bit of research trying to find 3D content. It does exist out there, but obviously the age of peak popularity for 3D has passed, and I do find that it can be difficult to get streaming content that is side-by-side 3D, particularly if you're looking for like full-length movies. I did watch some video clips and I found that the effect works well. It's very interesting to look at. However, getting a lot of content for that may prove to be difficult. And so that would be the downside there. And so you have the ability to click between 2D and 3D, and also you have the ability to swap eyes. And so depending on the content and how it was created, to make sure that you have the broadest range of playback options for that 3D content. On the right side, you also have controls for the brightness. And on that note, I found that under almost all conditions, I didn't need to go any brighter than about the 50% mark. So there's a broad range of brightness there for a lot of different lighting conditions. And so that was great as well. On the other side, you have, first of all, the lock that will allow you to either expand or diminish the distance to make sure you're lining up properly for your eyes. And then there is also a volume control. Now, there are small speakers that are built into the part that goes on your forehead. I will note on that, the sound is not going to be particularly full range, particularly on the low end. It's not bad. It's certainly usable in a pinch, but I would recommend getting your audio from other ways. And so up here on the headband portion, on the right side is where you plug in the USB-C. On the left side, there is a 3.5 millimeter headphone output. And so if you want to use wired headphones, you can use it by just inserting that into there, and then you're going to control the volume from the control on the actual art itself. Now, if you use Bluetooth buds, that's what I've most commonly done, because then you're eliminating one less wire out of the equation. You're obviously going to control your volume independently for your Bluetooth buds. The nice thing about using the Bluetooth bud option, however, if you're just using it from this type of device and you don't have the remote, is that very often if you just click or you squeeze for play pause, it will pause your content, and so that's nice as well. And obviously you're going to control your volume independently from your playback device. In this case, for me, most of the time it was a phone. Now, as you look into each one of these, going to the video side of things, each screen has a native 1920 by 1080 resolution. They are micro OLED displays in each one, but more important, and you might say, oh, well, full HD, that doesn't sound particularly sharp to me, but the amount of pixels per inch that are squeezed into this display are actually really, really impressive. It has 4,496 pixels per inch. let's just to give you a point of comparison, the Apple Vision Pro has 3,386 pupils per inch. So that means you have over 1,100 pixels more per inch in this Goovis Art than what you do in the Apple Pro or Vision Pro, which tells you it is extremely, extremely crisp. More importantly, for those of you that are gamers, is the lag time, which is under 10 milliseconds. So, I mean, under 40 is considered good. Professional gamers want under 15. And so this tells you that even professional gamers, they're going to be happy with the lag time associated with this. And so if you're looking for a display that's not only going to give you a big screen, but also give you really quick reaction times, another key benefit there. The picture quality is extremely good. Contrast ratio is 100,000 to 1. You know, contrast ratios, I don't know how much those can necessarily be trusted all the time, but I can tell you the black levels look great. Obviously, you have a great deal of brightness there, and so as a byproduct, you can look at, you know, HDR content. It looks fantastic on there. Now, the design is the idea of it being more of an open vision concept. It has upsides and downsides. Now, the upside is that I can still make eye contact with the camera right now in several ways while wearing the display. And so, for example, as I've been, you know, wearing this and kind of evaluating it, my wife comes in the room, she wants to talk to me. I can actually see her. I can make eye contact with her. And I've taken this kind of privilege to the extreme. I've even worn these while working out. And, you know, for example, if I'm dropping back, as you can see here, to do reps for chest, to be able to go back on my back and still have the screen always in front of my eyes is actually really cool. But I have enough of peripheral vision that I can see fine to do whatever exercise I'm doing while still being able to focus on the video content that I have in the display. So it does eliminate in certain lighting conditions. It would disrupt the immersiveness a bit. Obviously, you do have some peripheral light, and I noticed every now and then a little bit of light leaking depending on the light source around. But it obviously has other advantages that. And so obviously, because there is, you know, light can leak in from the sides, even though it holds up really well, I actually found in a wide variety of lighting conditions, including outdoors, you're going to get your best performance in a dimly lit or dark room for obvious reasons. Now, you know, they do have other, you know, closed designs available. And so if you're looking for complete immersiveness, maybe that's going to be one of those options is going to be better for you. But for a lot of people, to be able to keep a little bit of situational awareness, even on a commute, for example, could actually be very useful. And I've actually found, I was unsure about this design myself. I've actually found that I really don't mind it, and I appreciate some of the flexibility that having a little bit of situational awareness does allow me. Now, Goovis lists the Art's weight at 110 grams. I find that's maybe a little deceptive. You know, so you can get to 110 grams if you don't have, you know, for example, this forehead, you know, kind of padded forehead rest, which clips into the inside of this. It makes a night and day difference as to how comfortable it is to wear. So you're going to want to have that on. And obviously you're not going to be able to use it without the USB-C cable attached. So when I put all of those elements together and I put it on my own personal scale, I came back with 277 grams. You know, 277 grams is still extremely lightweight. And because the weight is nicely distributed, and I found that this, the padding that goes on the forehead makes it very comfortable, I was able to, you know, use extended viewing sessions, and I found it completely comfortable. I never really noticed the weight of it at all. And so that was great. Now, if you know, are someone that wants even more comfortable decision or experience, you do have the option of adding on this, which goes to the back of the head and clips all in together, and so that the weight is now distributed between two padded sections, and you have an ability to tighten or loosen that here. And so what that's going to allow you to do is to, you know, control the overall tension. I did not find this necessary, and to me it basically doubles the amount of bulk involved, and so that accessory is not for me. Your mileage may vary, obviously. I do appreciate on the bulk front that when everything is, you know, quickly folded down here, that you can throw it into this pouch that it comes with, and it's a fairly small footprint for what it is, and it's relatively flat. You could easily throw that into your your backpack or your carry-on, whatever it is that you are tracking on there. And I found, like, I always keep, there's a cleaning cloth that comes with it. I've got that in this front pouch, and I also threw a set of wired buds in there just in case I'm ever out with it and I don't happen to have Bluetooth buds with me. I've got that option right there. So let's talk about some things that I like just after having used it for a while. It is really kind of ridiculously easy to use, with the caveat that you have a modern device that supports video over USB-C. So for me, I thought I was going to have to go through steps. I had plugged it in, and I was shocked when immediately the display mirroring my phone came up. Like, it was literally plug and play for me. Now, obviously your mileage may vary, and on their website, they do have a list of all the devices where you're going to have that just plug and play supported already without any kind of additional steps. And so that might be worth checking out if you have an older device. Though, if you're using an Android-based device, the flexibility goes back a little deeper than what it was with Apple-based devices. I also love the fact that I felt like it had fantastic clarity. The picture quality is truly exceptional, and it's a very engaging visual experience. And so I'll add to that, I was impressed with the black levels. Black levels are great. They're nice and dark, but with clarity and detail in them. So I thought they were really fantastic. I will note on that you don't really actually have a lot of picture control, or any picture control really, outside of brightness. And so it's fortunate that it all looks really good because you don't have any control in the actual playback device when it comes to that. I also found it to be extremely comfortable. I had no issues with wearing it for longer periods of time, and certainly everyone that put it on and tried it out, I heard no complaints over any kind of discomfort over that either. I found that it was actually a benefit that I was able to see around it. And so it expanded the range of what I could do while wearing it. And so, on a very personal and practical level, you could be watching something, need to go to the bathroom. You don't need to take it all off and set it back up. I mean, you could still see to go to the bathroom, no problem, while continuing to wear the device. So, that has some practical benefits to it. I find that it is if you're wanting a big screen experience, but you don't have a big screen budget, this is a way to achieve that. It cost, for the basic package, it cost about $470, under $500. That, as compared to trying to buy a truly large screen or a projector that could project a large screen, that offers a very good value. And you'd have to go into a pretty high-end projector to match what you're getting here in terms of visual immersiveness. I also appreciate the fact that it has extremely low lag. And so for those that want to use it for gaming, it's going to satisfy everybody when it comes to that. I also appreciate the fact that it is this very small footprint. And the advantage over the more closed designs is that this truly is small and light relative to those which can get really quite bulky. So how about some things that I didn't like? Well, the downside, obviously, of being a little bit more open around the edges, that in certain situations I did sometimes get a little bit of a light leak. And so if there was light that was pointed at me, I could get a little bit of glare in the corners sometime, and I had to either turn my head or maybe make a minor adjustment, and so that light source was being blocked out. Second thing that's worth considering is that running off your phone's battery as opposed to having an independent power source is that it could be an issue if your phone is nearly dead, obviously. That's going to be a factor. But of course, the flip side of that is you never have to worry about the state of charge for the art itself. It has no state of charge, and so it leaves you having to worry about just one thing, which for many people is half the headache. It is not as fully immersive as a closed design. And so if your optimal goal is being completely lost in everything, you may want something that has a closed design without any peripheral awareness around it. I also found as a negative that using if you need to use the D4H1, having to use that HDMI adapter, I consider that to be a negative. Now, I want it to have the HDMI output because that broadens the flexibility of what it has. And by the way, this does also have 16 gig of internal storage and a micro HD, a micro SD slot here. And so you can expand it even more if you want to bring along your own content, say if you're on a flight where you don't have any kind of Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi. So I wanted to have the HDMI, but I also wanted to have a USB-C output. If you're going to package this with your, your head-mounted displays that use USB-C as their video source, put a USB-C port on this, and so we can use it without any kind of clunky adapter. I want both output ports, not just the one HDMI. So a few complaints there, but my conclusion is that this was a lot of fun to use. It doesn't perfectly solve every technical detail, as we've just talked about, but if you're using a newer iPhone or Android, it is dead simple to just plug and play. And literally, you can sit down and you can be in your content within seconds, not minutes. The screen looks big and clear. It has very low distortion, under 1% distortion, and so you can see right to the very corners of things, and you might be surprised at how much you see on the edges of the frames of video content you've never seen before. The form factor makes it very portable and easy to bring along. This is a pretty compelling package, and if you've got $500 burning a hole in your pocket and you've been looking for a head-mounted display, the idea of having your own personal cinema appeals to you, then the Goovis Art may just be the device for you, even if it does have kind of a funky name. I'm Dustin Abbott, and if you want more information, you can check out my text review that is linked in the description down below. There are some buying links there as well. As always, thanks for watching. Have a great day, and let the light in.